Acha student, this is another interesting and interwoven idea which we have already discussed before. This is basically the operationalization which we talked about before. Explain why when operationalization of variables is necessary. So when we have to necessarily operationalize the variable. For evaluating this, you need to attempt the discussion question number 2, and you also have to attempt the example page on page number 196. The significance, the importance of this topic is understanding of the variable in detail. The assignment you will have to attempt is of 11.2. So you see, okay, the first point, reduction of abstract concepts to render them measurable in a tangible way is called the operationalizing the concept. So what we have learned, the reduction of abstract concepts to render them measurable in a tangible way is called the operationalizing the concept. You may write it down because this is very important. Because if a variable can be measured without any kind of operationalization, so we don't talk about it. For example, age, so without any kind of operationalization, we could measure the we could measure it. But when we talk about the abstract concept, the subjective concepts, basically we need to operationalize them. So what we do, we reduce the concept to execute. Render means execute. To execute them measurable in a tangible way. Tangible means the way in which we can see in black and white, or we can measure further, or we can process further. Tangible means basically touchable भी होता है कि something which you can touch, but over here it means the relative means is or the meaning to context is which through which you can analyze or you can further use. Operationalizing is done by looking at the behavioral dimensions, facets or properties denoted by the concept. Operationalizing is done by looking at the behavioral dimensions, facets or properties denoted by the concept. So we need to check out the behavioral dimension. The dimension means the facets, the properties denoted by the concept. Let me give you the example of this. For example, if I say you are intelligent, or we are measuring the variable or the characteristic of a student, that characteristic, the intelligence. So intelligent, what do you think intelligent is? What is there any dimension, facets or properties? Do you think about it? What do you know about intelligence? You see, you know that uh, there's a IQ and there is a EQ. Okay, there is IQ and there is EQ. So if you have a good IQ and EQ, that is intelligence quotient and emotional quotient. If you are emotionally intelligent and you are intelligent with numbers and memory, it means you are really intelligent. So if I want to measure the intelligence in totality, so what I need to do, I need to operationalize by looking at the all the dimensions. So what I need to do, I need to measure the emotional plus IQ, your other intelligence. I will be giving you many more examples. So if you have not understood the idea clearly, so don't you worry, you will be understanding in after a while. These are then translated into observable and measurable elements so as to develop an index of measurement of the concept. So basically you translate the dimension into observable or measurable elements. Elements means the important aspect of measuring the EQ, the important aspect of measuring the IQ. So you see, if you cover all the important aspects, it is called the elements. Elements समझ रहे हैं? कि जिनसे वो मिलके बना है. It is the मुरक्कब, or it is the for example, the IQ is made of different elements, like how quick you are in accessing your memory. Okay, how quick you are in or in calculating. Getting a point? So here I am giving the elements which all create the IQ. So we need to know the elements of every dimension, every facet, so as to develop an index of measurement of the concept. So as to develop an index of the measurement of the concept. Index means okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Index means through which we can measure the concept. Let's move. So you see the operationalizing a concept involves a series of steps. These steps are important. I would like you to note down all these steps since these steps will help you out in operationalizing a concept. The first step is to come up with a definition of the construct. Construct means the variable that you want to measure. The first step is to come up with a definition of the construct that you want to measure. Then it is necessary to think about the content of the measure, that is an instrument, one or more items or questions that actually measure the concept that one wants to measure has to be developed. So it means the instrument means more than one questions you will have to measure the variable. I just gave you an example of IQ through different elements. Every element can have more than one question or one question. So it varies from element to element. So what is written over here, number of questions are called instruments, and basically through instrument you measure the concept. So first you need to define the definition, then you have to define the instrument, then you move on to a response format, the format on which you will get the data through 7-point rating scale with endpoints anchored by strongly disagree and strongly agree. It is one of the instrument, it is one of the response format. I expect that you all guys have been through with the questionnaire of strongly agree to strongly disagree. Sometimes back when you were in the university, people, I assume people used to come in your classes and used to meet you during your break and when you are outside to fill their questionnaires. I hope you have been through this experience. So what you have learned, the answers, the response format of the questions is strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree and strongly agree. So this is the 5-point rating scale which I just talked to you about is needed, and finally the validity and reliability of the measurement scale has to be assessed, which I just talked to you about. It is our next chapter which we will be talking about. So what you have to do, the operationalizing the concept requires definition, instrument or the number of questions, and the response format. And after settling about the response format, we need to validate and check the reliability of the measurement scale. So up till here we will complete the chapter number 3 of RP1 and RP2 thesis. So in the thesis RP1 and RP2 you will have to define up till the reliability and validity of your measurement of your instrument. That's it up till that. Okay. So I just try to connect with you guys with the upcoming thesis of yours which will be in RP1 and RP2, so that it will be easy for you to relate and to prepare yourself accordingly. So this is the example which you all have to attempt. This is the operationalizing the concept need for cognition. So with the same uh, discussion of ours of the last slide, you will have to attempt this question. Let's move on. Let's move ahead. We talked about the objective concept or objective attribute, objective characteristic, objective variable, and the abstract variable. So you see, objective we have already discussed. Abstract, when we talk about the subjective concept, the subjective concept, when we talk about the abstract concept, the abstract variable, the abstract characteristic, we see one is unidimensional and the other is multidimensional. So there are two category of the subjective variable or subjective attribute, characteristic or concept. It could be unidimensional or multidimensional. Okay, acha students, be aware the class can be end anytime. So be ready anytime soon. The class will be disconnected within 5 to 10 minutes. So you have to be with me and listen attentively so that we can catch up with everything. So you see, the example is given. As I already told you, this is a subjective concept. Subjective concept means we have to figure out, or we have to get the data out of the judge through different questions. So over here you see 45 questions. I don't mean questions. 45 questions. Okay. And what it is written, if the 45 questions of a single concept, that is motivation, they all are interrelated. They are interrelated. क्या मतलब? They are correlated. ठीक है? They are correlated. So you can check the correlation through your own IQ, or through your own intelligence, or through the use of the software. ठीक है? So here we are saying through your common intelligence, you can get to know the interrelatedness of the degree of the interrelatedness. For example, there are 45 questions and they all are interrelated. They all are interrelated. Interrelated means they are talking about the same element or the same dimension, not the same element, or you may say the same element or the same dimension. It means the 45 questions are talking about the one thing. Like I talked about the intelligence, emotional intelligence, and the IQ. Over here you see 45 questions are interrelated. It means the only single dimension is being measured by all the 45 questions. So this is called the unidimensional variable, the unidimensional characteristic of an object, or the unidimensional variable or the construct. Okay? It means it does not have more than one dimension. I hope you have understood the idea. The Let me rephrase again last time for the last time, so that you or let me summarize it, that the subjective variable can have the two dimensions, can have the two categories. One is unidimensional, the other one is multidimensional. Unidimensional means all the questions, all the items will be interrelated. That is why it is called the unidimensional, and there is no other dimension to the variable, to the characteristic. Since there is no other dimension, so there are uh, no variation. They all are interrelated. So the other one is multidimension. Multidimension means there are more than one dimension. They are not interrelated. For example, if the variable is multidimensional, it means the 15 questions will be interrelated, and rest of the rest of the 30 questions will not will be interrelated. So 15 questions are interrelated and rest of 30 questions are interrelated. Okay, they are interrelated to each other. But all of the 45 questions are not interrelated. It means it is multidimensional and it has two dimensions. I hope that the concept is clear. Let's move ahead and evaluation discussion question. So you evaluate your understanding up till now by this discussion question number 2. Explain why it is impossible to measure an object. So you will have to figure out yours and answer it. This is another assignment of yours, so that for your better understanding, it is the home assignment, that is exercise 11.2. So I hope that you go through with this as for your better understanding of the concepts we just have been through. So let's move on, defining the abstract variables. So how do we define the abstract variable? How do we operationally define the abstract variable? Sorry, the abstract variable. We can evaluate this understanding of this topic through the discussion question number 6, example 198. Significance is make the abstract concept measurement possible. Another assignment you will have with the number 8. So what we see over here, these are the examples of the multidimensional variable. Since the multidimensional variable is quite complex concept for you, but it is not as complex as it seems. So if you try to understand, there is a variable aggression, there is a characteristic of an object aggression, and you see, whenever anybody is aggressive, he is verbally aggressive and physically aggressive. So it makes sense to you. If somebody is aggressive, it means it is verbally he is verbally aggressive or physically aggressive. So this is kind of common sense as well. Plus, there are many researches of the characteristic aggression or the variable aggression. So you can always refer to them for taking out the correct dimensions. So over here we have written the verbal and physical aggression. So these are the dimensions. So for every dimension you have to take out the elements, and from different elements you will be able to make different questions of every element. For example, there could be 4 elements of verbal aggression. Okay? So 4 elements can have 4 questions or more than 4 questions. So let's take another example of the variable burnout. It is a multi-dimensional variable and it has 3 dimensions: depersonalization, emotional exhaustion, and reduced personal accomplishment. You see, many researchers have different kind of understanding of the variable and they are correct in that. So you may come across 3 dimensions of a single variable burnout, or you can have the 2 dimension of the variable burnout, or you can have more than 3 dimensions of the variable burnout. So be ready for that. For example, the 5 dimension you could also find from the literature, from the already done research. So don't worry about it. So the same variable burnout can have multiple dimensions. So every researcher has his own rationale. So you need to understand. So but the concept must be across that if you take the dimensions of the variable, it means you are comprehensively researching the variable. If you don't take the dimension, it means you are not comprehensively taking the variable. So this is highly recommended. Let's move. So you see there is another variable with the wellness. Wellness is the variable, and you see the wellness has the 8 dimensions: emotional, spiritual, social, physical, occupational, intellectual, financial, and environmental. So basically these 8 dimensions are all important to measure the variable wellness. So it's over you that you would how many elements you would take out of the emotional. For example, you take the 4 elements for measuring the emotional dimension. So if you take the 4 elements, you can have the 4 questions, or you can have more than 4 questions. It's over you how detailed you want it to be. Okay, you see this is the example given in the book. It is very important for your understanding. Over here you see this is the variable, these are the dimensions: d1, d2, d3, d4, d5. These are dimension. This variable achievement motivation has 5 dimensions, and every dimension has different number of elements. You see driven by work is one of the dimension. It has 3 elements, and the d2 unable to relax dimension 2 has the 2 elements. So you see the elements which I was talking about is here, you see very clearly, very distinctly. And what you have to do, you could make a question of a single element, or you can make 2 questions of a single element, or 3 questions of a single element. For example, if we take the driven by work as a dimension, it has 3 elements. So constantly working can be figured out, or can be measured by 1 question, or can be 2 questions. So if we take the 2 questions for every element, 2 questions for every element, so how many questions will we have? How many questions will we have? We will have we will have uh, 2 questions of this element. You see, 2 questions of this element. Okay, constantly working. 2 questions of this element, very reluctant. 2 questions of this element. ठीक है? So you see, 2 questions, 2 questions, 2 questions. So how many elements do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So